Hi, Natara. How are you doing?
Hi, Miss, how are you? I'm doing good. Miss, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, there was something wrong with my audio.
Okay, 1 second. Share the screen. Okay, you said you wanted to do the Grauballe Man by Miss Heaney.
Yes, Miss.
All right, perfect. So we're going to do it as we always do. I'm going to let you accumulate your thoughts and your resources, give you a few minutes to prepare and kind of refresh your memory on what you know about the poem, and then we will
Mhm.
go through it together.
All right, Miss.
All right, perfect.
Miss, I'm done reading it.
Okay, perfect. Can you tell me what you know about it, what you understand about it?
It's another one of Heaney's another poem that Heaney focuses on the um bog people, I think. They're the remains of people that were, I think, sacrificed, or either somewhere somewhere executed, or I think in this case the body was sacrificed. Um, it's another one of those poems that sort of focus on those people. And he describes the body, the corpse, or the remains of a man who had his throat
Slit.
slashed. Yeah. And uh yeah, that's all I got from it.
That's all?
Um, he describes the remains, I think, and yeah.
Okay. So the Grauballe Man is basically the name that they gave to a body that they discovered in the Danish bog. Bog is an area of wet, soft ground, and it was discovered in the year 1952. The body is said to be of a man in the Iron Age times, probably dating back to the late 3rd century BC, and the bog being a wet area had ended up preserving his body for over 2,000 years. Based on the wounds that they found in the body, as you mentioned, it seemed like the throat was slit open, having killed him, and that was considered as a way of human sacrifice as a part of pagan festivals. So pagan is a religion, and they have their sacramental beliefs and certain, rituals that they do. For example, looking at they had idols that they worship. They had probably days that they fasted. I'm not entirely 100% like well versed with the pagan rituals, but they did have specific rituals that they followed, and based on those, it was known that this could be considered as a pagan human sacrifice. So he wrote that poem about the body, and then this is a picture of the body that I found online, saying that this is the Grauballe Man that they were talking about. So you can see how if this is what they had discovered, you can see how it's still in pretty good condition. It's not just bones. I mean, it has been preserved in a way that you can tell it's a person, and there's still hair on the body. Again, not 100% sure if this was the exact one, but just for an idea that this is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of this has been highlighted just for like the pronunciation aspects. Like if you see, it has the symbols, the phonics and the phonology at the top to help us pronounce the words better. So it's easier for the people who are doing linguistics or are learning English as a second language and are learning how to pronounce everything. So just leave it at that. And this is our main poem, The Grauballe Man. Now, I found a few things from the Grauballe Man that I want you to go ahead and like fill up the blank spaces for me. I've highlighted 1, 2, 3, 4 evidences. I need you to identify if it is a simile or a metaphor, and then explain it on the 3rd part of the table.
All right, miss.
Yeah. So we're just focusing on similes and metaphors now, but we'll take a look into the rest of the techniques in a little bit.
All right.
Okay, perfect. So the first one, as if he had been poured in tar, has already been characterized as a simile, and half the explanation was given to you. The body is black like tar, and it looks like a liquid, and maybe wet because it has been in the bog. And what does it make you think? Like, what kind of image does it conjure up?
Like the present perfect tense has been. It sort of shows the power dynamic, I think. Like, he is not the subject in the sense.
No, I don't want you to dissect the language for me. I want you to tell me what image does that create? What kind of image comes up in your mind when you read this simile? What picture does it paint? What do you think of?
Him it shows
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure, but I think tar is it's
Okay.
it's sort of like,
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, like after a volcano erupts and everything turns the it cools down. It's almost like she becomes a part of like the ground. I'm not really sure.
Okay. So what I went ahead and added to that is that we've already kind of described what the simile meant, right? It meant that he was covered in this black-like object, and tar, we know, as you said, you can connect it to the volcanoes. Tar is actually the black liquid that is put on the roads that make the roads black. So it's like a very sticky, wet material that kind of combines everything. So our roads, our streets, they're actually made out of tar. So it's not always like liquidy, but it's like a semblance of tar that kind of mixes together with the gravel and the sand and everything else that is used to make the roads and kind of sticks everything together. And in this case, tar is just on its own, so it's like very liquidy. It's very dense. And when it says as if he had been poured in tar, we automatically connect it to black being the color, and we know that it poured, right? The verb poured signifies that it's a liquid. Okay, so the poured word signifies that it's a liquid. And we obviously know the tar is black and it's wet. So we say that the body is wet because it's inside the liquid, because it has been in that bog. That bog is that area. So the bog is not the tar. The bog is just what we call that wet, gooey thing, but that liquid is actually resembling tar. And what does it make you think? It makes you think of this body being like immersed and combined with the bog's thick substance, like the body and the bog are all one piece. Like you cannot separate the two from each other because it's so immersed. It's been there for years. It's been there for centuries. that it all seems like one big connected thing. And this ends up highlighting the eerie and unsettling nature of the discovery, because obviously when you uncover something that's 2000 years old, there's a very unsettling feeling. The atmosphere is very unsettling. It's very eerie, like borderline creepy. You don't know what's happening because you are, uncovering a dead body after all these years. So that's what it makes you think of. It makes you think of this dark and gloomy environment or atmosphere. Um, Having read this line, it makes you picture a body that's kind of fused with the liquid, and you can't separate the two from each other. That's the kind of response that I am looking for with your analysis.
Right.
Yeah, so we're having the direct comparison, especially for the number 2, like the ball of his heel, like a basalt, like a basalt egg. So the heel is shaped like, and the heel would feel like. So you're going to give me a very physical explanation of it, like what it is shaped like, what it represents, what it reflects, and then you're going to give me what it would feel like. Again, just picking from the words, picking from the ideas, picking of what you know, and kind of building a connection between them. Okay, so this is basalt. Basalt is a rock. And an egg is also hard. So this means that whatever it was really, really hard, right? That's the kind of connection that I'm looking for. We're doing a direct analysis right now, like a literal analysis, word to word, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why don't you try again with number 2, and then we'll move on to the third one. So we'll do it one by one. Why don't you try it out with the second example? What is it? Is it a simile or a metaphor?
It's also a simile, like
It's
it's a
also a
slide.
simile. Exactly, it's also a simile. So now I want you to go ahead and explain this, and then we'll see what it is, and then we'll move on to the next one.
All right. Miss, the simile, it shows how this heel is shaped like a ball because the skin around it had decayed. So like leaving the bone part, like it leaving the bone exposed, and it shows like his vulnerability because like everything that would keep him warm had decomposed. And also basalt is a very hard rock. It can't be shaped, I think, and it also kind of has a texture. Yeah, it's not really completely smooth.
But the fact that it's been used with with the word egg, right? So basalt brings the hardness to it, the density, the hardness, and the egg part brings the smoothness to it. So it's like it's an oxymoron almost, right? It's a juxtaposition, a contrast that it's as hard as basalt, yet smooth like an egg.
An egg is also like very fragile because like once you hit it or like anything, it cracks. And that also shows like the fragility and the vulnerability again. Yeah, it like emphasizes the sense of vulnerability of the man faces.
So we'll say that's an oxymoron. Are you familiar with the word oxymoron?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so we can say that it's an oxymoron because of the fragility of the egg and the toughness of the basalt, and how it represents, as you said, the vulnerability or the fragility of the bones having been, you know, underground for that many years, or in this liquid for that many years. And we can say this, obviously his heel is shaped. So when we're talking about the shape, we're referencing the hard and smooth texture. And when we talk about the fragile nature of it or the touch of it, again, we're referencing the smooth nature or the fact that anything could shatter it because it's still as fragile as an egg, even though as it looks hard. So there's that comparison or contrast that creates that image of a tough or like a hard physicality versus the soft nature or soft inner what's the word? I don't want to say soul, but maybe external versus internal would sound better. Yeah. So that's number 2. Now number 3, is it a simile or a metaphor?
That is a metaphor because it doesn't use
like
azurite.
Yeah, azurite, great. So what does this metaphor show? Like what does it represent about the hair and the color of the hair, specifically focusing on the word rusted, like what idea does it give us about the hair and the color of the hair? And the reference of it being like a mat, what does it signify?
The rusted, his hair is like brown in color.
Brown or red?
Yeah, brownish red. Because rustics form after iron had corroded. Could we say that also shows like the corrosion or like all the layers had been stripped off. And the hair is also like a mat. That would show like the texture or like how soft it is. And Yeah.
We can almost say that it's kind of like stuck to the skull as well, like because mats are usually, flat on the floor. So we can say that the mat-like texture of it kind of also signifies how it's stuck to the hair or like stuck to the skull and just, flattened out over years of being underground and under the pressure. What about number 4, metaphor or simile?
Number 4 is also a metaphor.
And what does it tell us about the shape and the body?
Um, it could say that it could show that the shape, it's sort of arched, I think, and like how he, like the position he's cemented onto the rock, onto the bog. Mm, and the under a glisten of mud, he had been covered in the earth, like, in the mud, and the word glistened. It's also like very contrasting. Like it's basically it's dead, and yeah, it shows like how it's still, I don't know, it brings a sense of life to the body. The word glisten. Mm.
Also talked about how eels are meant to be sleek and flexible and move very easily through the water, and how we can say that the spine, having been trapped and immobilized under all of that liquid for years, has started to have that kind of rubbery texture, that kind of flexible texture, which would also communicate that maybe the spine is now fragile, because spines are not meant to be that flexible. They're not meant to be that, easy to move around. And the fact that this spine was, it can tell us how maybe fragile it is to just kind of pick it up. It could break, having been under that pressure for so long. It's like having to thaw ice, like, something's frozen, and then you're kind of just mm, breaking it up, like picking it up, it'll just like slide off, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I want you to go ahead and get some contextual research on Seamus Heaney. We should have done this in the previous poem, but I forgot. So I just want you to do some little bit research on Seamus Heaney himself, what kind of author he is, what kind of poet he is, what does he write, what does most of his works reflect.
All right. Right, miss.
All right, perfect. Tell me what you have.
Miss Heaney, wait, do I just give like contextual background on Heaney or like him on the poem, this poem
Yeah, okay.
specifically?
No problem, no problem.
Um, so he was born in Northern Ireland to his parents. His dad was, I think, his dad's family, they raised cattle, and his mom's family, they worked in a mill. Couldn't remember which. Um, and his upbringing was very rural, but there was like the conflict, the tension between his parents' background because his mom had a more industrial um upbringing, and he also that he also shows that in his poems. Um, he studied at Queen. I forgot which university.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I forgot which university it was, but
Belfast and then Oxford.
after yeah, he after became he published his poetry. He got his degree from Queen's University in Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
He was also the professor of poetry at Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of his work reflects the Irish troubles because he was a Catholic. I think he was a Catholic in Protestant
In Protestant
Northern
town.
Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of his work it reflects the troubles, but also between the nationalists and the Republican IRA, like
Mm-hmm.
the atrocities both parties, the IRA and the British government committed. Um, and he doesn't explicitly refer to them in his poems. I think he tends to um steer clear of being too political in his poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what I found, and a lot of his um poetry poems were um inspired by the Bog people. Um, is like this poem Punishment and Bog Queen, and a lot of his poetry it shows the human suffering like through the Bog poems. It shows the extent of human suffering. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it also connects to Ireland. Um, he also, after coming back from teaching at University of California, Berkeley, he called Ireland a graceless community.
Mm-hmm.
I think he called it. Yeah, he called it a graceless community, and that sort of shows the relationship to Ireland. It's not. It's very love hate in a way. Um, and I think there are certain poems that he had to write in after in reaction to like all the pressures of his domestic life and like such as North because it was during a time when his wife was on maternity leave and he had his third child. So a lot of his poems like reflect the urgency of that as well. Some of his poems.
All right.
Mm,
Yeah, perfect. I think
yeah.
that pretty much covers um majority of his history, majority of Seamus Heaney's background. And as you mentioned, I have the same information. The only thing I'll add to that is that the background behind him writing Grauballe Man was that he was really intrigued by the discovery of the Grauballe Man and all the other bog bodies.
Mhm.
And even in an interview, he had said that I was terrifically entranced by the photographs. Terrible as they were, the theory that they had been part of some sacrificial ritual or part of some punishment for offenses committed against the tribe made me think of them in relation to the whole idea of self-sacrifice and had lain behind much 20th century violence. So he was very much intrigued by um, everything that was happening with them that he ended up writing about it. So I like your in-depth analysis of it. I think next week on Saturday we'll do the great next week actually I'm not available. On Friday we'll pick up either the poem or The Great Gatsby. I think it's Sunday, right? Sunday, 2 hours,
Miss
yeah.
for poetry, could you like send more reads? It's Sunday 2 hours and then Friday 19th.
Yeah.
Miss, could you like for poetry, could you send more resources like the table or like for all the poems if you have?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm doing the research on it one by one because I have some poems I don't have all. So as soon as we cover the
okay,
poems, I'll
Miss.
keep sending you the PDF of whatever we've done.
All right, Miss. Yes, thank
All
you.
right, perfect. No problem. I'll see you on Sunday.
Yes, Miss. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
You too, Miss. Have a good week.
Thank you. You too.